This is my 1994 BMW 325i convertible, I nicknamed Aurora. Today, I'll be going over the rise and fall of this car, as well as future plans I have to return it to its former glory that I'll be showing on this channel in the near future. This car means a lot to me. Not only was it my first car, it's also how I learned most of my automotive knowledge earlier in my life. Hence why I haven't sold it yet. It didn't always look this rough. In fact, I had it looking almost perfect a few years ago. However, things don't always go our way. I'll get into that in a little bit. When I bought it, I was 18 years old and a senior in high school. I remember we were going for dinner at a family friend's house, and they had this in the garage. They asked if I wanted to take it around the block, and of course I was really excited to take the red convertible BMW around. I was 18. When I got back, they casually mentioned they were looking to sell it. In my mind, I didn't know anything about them, and all I was seeing was a cool red BMW. Something I could never afford, right? But when he said he wanted $3,000 for it, I almost couldn't get to my bank fast enough. The car needed a lot of work, and they even recommended that I didn't buy it, but I was excited to learn all the new things. The antenna was broken off, the seat gear was broken and it would move around freely and was being held up by a pillow. The whole interior was burned, there was cracking rubber and plastic everywhere, the paint was faded, the trim was faded. It needed a couple small things in the engine, but I was excited to learn. The first things I did was fix the antenna, the gear in the seat so I could actually sit up when I was driving. Nothing important. It also needed a new intake boot because it wouldn't pass California smog without it. I got some two-tone seat covers, and then I got a new piece of leather for the center armrest. This had sparked my interest for not only automotive mechanics, but also for modifying my car. Some good and some not so good. I remember I bought this stupid license plate frame for the front of it that cost way too much money. I had a small phase where I was going through smoked headlights, taillights, and grille. Ultimately not too ricey for an 18-year-old, but I got out of that phase pretty quick. Then on to some of the more interesting things. The soft top needed to be replaced pretty bad, and I had tried to keep it together. But with water continuing to come in every single rainy day, I needed to do something. I got quotes for replacing the soft top between $1,500 and $2,000. That was really expensive for me. It was almost as much as I paid for the car. But then I was searching Craigslist and I found a hard top for $1,200 on there. It only seemed obvious to go with that. It did make it inconvenient to take the top down, but it was kind of cool. And now I'm pretty glad I did it because they're pretty rare now. Then I got tired of the two-tone exterior and I decided it had to go. On the side skirts, I just ended up using paint thinner and was able to get the gray off of the red from underneath it. But I did have to paint the front and rear bumpers. I wanted to learn how to do that anyway, so it was a good opportunity. My first pass was okay, and it got me a lot of the way there, but I still had a lot to learn. Eventually I found an M front bumper in the junkyard. I spent a lot of time repairing it actually because it was split in the front, and then got to try again with the paint. It turned out a lot better the second time, but once again, still needed work. That bumper ended up getting crushed by an X at Starbucks. Then I went back to a non-M one that got taken out by an overturned cone at 1 o'clock in LA, and then finally back to an M-style one later on. So many bumpers, but so many opportunities to learn how to paint, I guess. I'm calling it a curse because that also wasn't the end of it. Then I wanted to go for an all-black interior. I could not stand that tan and beige. It was awful looking. Well, I guess it wasn't awful, but I did not like it at all. And on top of that, it got dirty so quick, I'd have to shampoo the carpets once a week if I didn't want black marks from my shoes all over the floor. I was able to find almost everything in junkyards. The dashboard took me the longest to get out, and I had to break the windshield of the car in the junkyard to get to it. I found some contour wheels and eventually some OEM side skirts that I thought would just make the car look a little bit wider. I wasn't going for anything crazy, I wanted it to look very good while mostly stock looking. That led to my final paint job where I did my new front M bumper, the rear bumper which hadn't been touched since I did it initially and definitely needed to be resprayed, and then the side skirts. This is when the car was almost exactly the way I wanted it. Unfortunately, the deer had run into the side of the car, gone over the hood and through the windshield, and did a lot of damage. At this point, I had a decision to make. I had already had the car for about 8 years, and I was due for a new one. The mechanical problems were starting to grow, and I was stressed out in school. It was time for a new car, and this one hit the garage. Since then, I've done some minor repairs such as re-straightening the frame and getting some new body panels, but ultimately, it's been sitting in my garage for 4 to 5 years now, and it's long overdue for a restore. My plan is to get the car's body work done, re-sprayed, and then back on the road. There's some small mechanical problems that need to be addressed, such as a leaking valve cover. There's a whining coming from what I think is the throw-out bearing, and it probably needs a rebuild in the next 10 to 20,000 miles. I've already restarted the body work, and my goal is to hopefully get that all done and re-sprayed by May. It's a little bit of a stretch considering it's freezing outside and hard to get the motivation to go out there, but I think 5 months is enough time to get into gear and get that done. Then if I want to visit power increases, I can visit that during the rebuild stage. So if you'd like to see where this goes or want to see more about cars, motorcycles, or other tech, hit the subscribe button, and thank you for watching.